Isaac Curtis numbers are just as good, if not better, than Drew Pearson. And you'll get an argument from a lot of people that Pearson wasn't quite the receiver that Curtis was. And I don't disparage Drew Pearson. I think if those guys in that room felt he belonged, that he belongs. I trust those guys. I mean, the good people in there, John McClain, Goose Goslin, Ron Borges, Legwald. I mean, these guys.
They don't take it lightly, and it's not a political thing for them.
They're first class. So my gripe is not with them. I guess it's you got to open it up because, as the great Ron Borges said, when you get into that seniors meeting and you got like 12 or 13 or 15 guys, you're leaving Hall of Famers scattered about the floor.
And I agree. And it's tough. And Ken Riley, what a wonderful person, but what a wonderful player. And someone, and Butch, I don't know how the senior committee looks at him because I don't think that he got the due that he deserved while he was still playing, but he, you look at the interception totals that he had, you look at the impact he had on that Bengals defense. I mean, Ken Riley was a superstar and, just didn't, and he wasn't into the hype. That wasn't him. He wasn't a self-promoter. That's part of it. I think what happens too, and this is no slight on Drew Pearson because he was an all-decade wide receiver.
Right.
So people back then even thought, and he was the only member of the 1970s all-decade team, first-team selection, who was not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So maybe that's where this one starts, Butch. Maybe it's
I think that's where it starts and ends, frankly. That's where it starts and ends.
And that's everyone else is in, but him. Right. Why isn't he in? He deserves to have this vote.
And I know the perception, and I know I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was going to say I didn't even cut you off. You want to finish that?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that at that point afterward, and I understand Ken Riley was a strong candidate. I know that Chuck Howley's name had reportedly come up. Of course, you talk Ken Anderson. I don't think as a Hall, and this is just me speaking, that we value the quarterback position in some ways as much because of the difficulty it takes in playing it. Playing on the offensive line is tough, right? But that's rote physical skills in a lot of ways. Teaching your body how to process a pass set and then learning certain pass rush moves. But there's nowhere near the volume of things that you need to have as a quarterback. And Ken Anderson, when you look at the totality of his career, I mean, he was an innovator when it came to running an offense in the K-gun. He's a former NFL MVP. The numbers are there to support him as well. And Isaac Curtis, I agree. And listen, at some point, Willie Anderson's got to start to get into this debate. I am not sure why Willie Anderson can't break through to the 15.
I mean, and you've been in there, Marv. I didn't say this, but you are a Hall of Fame selector. You're not on the senior committee. You're a selector.
That's the shirt, actually. I wear that to remind myself. Yes.
There you go. Now, you're an at-large vote, right? And I'm the Cincinnati vote. But
yes.
We've been in these meetings, and they sweated so much about, we got to put all these they're great offensive linemen. And, but they're talking about left tackles. They left out the best right tackle of their time while they were doing it. And I tried to make that point to these guys is, those guys ought to be in, but you're forgetting about the right side of the line.
Right. And I agree with you. And I just wonder now we're going to have a break when it comes to left tackles going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I believe Alan Faneca, probably his year coming up as we break the logjam of offensive linemen who have been in the room. And I think Faneca, 9-time Pro Bowl selection, did it for multiple teams. I know another Stiller offensive lineman going in the Hall. I get it. But it is probably his time, realistically. After that, is there a shot of Willie Anderson getting in the room?
But, Willie was the best at his position. And Faneca was a hell of a player. I'm not sure, was he the best? Did he ever have the position that Willie had?
Was he the best guard? Right. In football. I'm with you on this. And Butch, I wish I had
an answer. Faneca. Believe me, Faneca.
No, I know.
Faneca to know.
These guys, and that's the whole thing that we talk about as Hall voters. And I really wish people understand that it's not like we're trying to take shots at some of the greatest people to ever play the game. I mean, the fact you're in this conversation, the fact that we're spending this time meeting about you means that 48 Pro Football Hall of Fame voters believe that you have strong candidacy for the Hall. But there's only a certain number that can go in. And, of course, you can only vote upon what you're presented. And I think that's part of the key as well, Geoff. We got to start getting – if you want the Bengals to get this consideration for the modern era guys, it's
Marv,
to get
I had this meeting. I've been talking to these guys for the last 2 months, either texting or emailing, and I think I know what happened in there. I got a pretty good idea. They knew the cases, just exactly what you said. Mel Blount, Kenny Riley didn't make any highlight films, but he made Mel Blount's Mel Blount watched every snap that he could of Ken Riley on tape. He was his counterpart in Pittsburgh, Pro Bowl corner, and he watched Kenny Riley on tape. Ken Anderson led the league in passing back-to-back years twice in two different styles of football. So those are the things I tried to highlight. Didn't make it. I think you hit it right on the head, the all-decade thing with Pearson. And Pearson's a marvelous player, but so is Isaac Curtis. And the thing that gets me is that Bengals have one guy in the Hall of Fame.
It's remarkable, Anthony Munoz, and that's it. And Geoff,
so I look at Willie. If you can help me on Willie, that'd be great.
Hey, listen, not a problem for me, and I am happy to speak up if we can even get him in the room, and that's part of it as well. You know, we have to have the ability to vote upon him. We can't vote for people who aren't there. So we've got that. And I look at the 2021, the nominees now, as far as the coaching nominee, which is a new thing. We should point out that they've now made it. We're taking the coaches out of the room for the modern era finalists, which I think is fantastic. So because it's hard to compare coaches and players. It's apples and oranges as far as selection. So now for the next 4 years, we're going to have a coach who's nominated. And I think in the case of both Drew Pearson and Tom Flores, these were probably the guys who didn't make the cut and just missed for that centennial class of 2020. And now that business is taken care of. I don't know how many more people from that are under consideration for the centennial class, strong consideration, like these were the top. And now I think we start moving on, toward 2022 and seeing where we're at as far as a senior candidate goes. And that's really obviously the best chance for a Ken Riley to get that type of consideration. And I think, get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and unfortunately posthumously because he did pass away, but would love to see that. And I think it's well-deserved. Again, 15 years, if I'm not mistaken, that type of volume of work. And the amazing thing too, someone who didn't play the position when he was in college at Florida A&M, converted by the late, great Paul Brown.
Amazing. What an amazing story. Not only that, did he never play the position, but he had never been on the field with another white person. Because he played at Florida A&M. He played
at HBCU. Absolutely. It was different times. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. That's why it's so important, Geoff, and I'm so happy for the Pro Football Hall of Fame has made this investment in the HBCUs and trying to keep the history alive and to let people understand what a different world it was for so many folks. And how did the Dallas Cowboys and Pittsburgh Steelers build their dynasty? They built it off of HBCU players. Gil Brandt ahead of the curve, and I think Bill Nunn, when we come to contributors at some point for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, helping the Steelers identify players like that through his ties in the Black community and HBCUs and journalism. I think that he's someone who ultimately will get it as well, because it also gave players a chance to change their lives, get that type of platform. And I mean, they are such giants and legends of the game. I'm able to go every year to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, for the College Black Football Hall of Fame. And it's one of my favorite times of the year with Gil Brandt, because you live the history and you understand how people live their lives so differently than what we did. Not being able to stay in the same hotels, not being able to drink from the same water fountains, not being equal. And by the way, those are still important issues today. And you're going to see them, on the field, on players' helmets and in the back of the end zones in 2020 in the NFL, because they realize it's an important thing to stress.